and you've got some corners to fill."
Mary pushed him in the shoulder with the flat of her hand.
"You would have thought you'd stopped growing years ago. How's your Amanda?"
"Oh, fine, fine."
"And Lily?"
"Oh, Lily, you'll never believe it, but I think she's got Bill Twig up to scratch at last." Mary sat down abruptly now, and clasping her hands, she bounced them on her lap as she leaned towards him and said, "No, what's brought it on?" "Well, Harry Brown's wife died over Allendale way. He's got a bit of a farm, not much to brag about, but enough to keep the wolf from the door. Well, he's been over 3 times in the last 3 months, and each time stood chatting and laughing with our Lily. It's made Bill think." He jerked his head as he ended. "And so he should. He's been courting her for 7 years. But it was his mother to blame there, at least up until 3 years ago when she died, 'cause she always used to tell him that it was unlucky to marry a woman older than himself. 2 years, I ask you. The things people say and believe in. This is a nice bit of fudge, Mary." He took another huge bite out of the buttered bread, then ended, "Folks in the main are ignorant, you know. Ignorant." In the sitting room, Miss Brigmore was using the same words. "It is ignorance, my dear," she was saying. "Just ignorance." Miss Brigmore did not speak as loudly as Mary Peel, but her voice was a pitch above normal, and she moved her lips in a slightly exaggerated fashion.
"She is horrible, and I hate her."
"You mustn't say that, Barbara. Sarah is only a little girl. She is but 10 years old." Miss Brigmore did not think that the girl standing before her at this moment was but 12 years old, for she considered Barbara older than her years. Knowledge, she thought, had made her so, the knowledge that she herself had imparted to her. The child, although having the terrible disadvantage of being almost completely deaf, nevertheless had the balancing advantage of being as well informed on a great many subjects as any young lady of 20. She gazed at the child, who was over-thin and over-tall for her age, and over-beautiful too. Her straight black hair was shining with the sheen of a wet seal. The skin that covered her long face was creamy and thick of texture and without tint. Her eyes were dark brown, and the look in them now, as at other times, made Miss Brigmore uneasy, for it reminded her of the look in Donald Radlett's eyes. Donald Radlett, who had been the husband of Barbara's Aunt Constance, but who was much closer to her than an uncle, did she but know it. This fact often kept Miss Brigmore awake at nights as she searched for a way to break to her beloved child the truth of her beginnings. She was fully aware that, but for the girl's deafness, her origin would have been made clear to her long before now, and if by no one else, by one of the Waite family over at Wolfbur Farm, for she had aroused the dislike not only of Harry and Daisy Waite, but also of Jim and Lily, their son and daughter, and all because she had taken a dislike to Harry Waite's niece Sarah. Harry Waite had brought Sarah to the farm when she was 2 years old, when her parents had both died of the fever. Sarah had grown into a pretty and lively little girl, and she was popular not only with the Waite family, but with the mistress, Constance Radlett, and her mother-in-law, Jane Radlett, too. All this would have been quite in order and accepted by Barbara had the attention to Sarah stopped there. But her cousin Michael had championed the little girl from the day she arrived on the farm, for Sarah, although so much younger than himself, was someone with whom he could play and at the same time protect. Previous to Sarah's coming, the only time Michael had anyone of his own age to play with was when Barbara visited the farm. In the summer, the visits could be frequent, but during the winter months the children were lucky if they saw each other twice. The first time the rift between the children came into the open was one exceptionally mild Christmas. Miss Brigmore herself had driven Mary and the child over, expecting to be able